Tutorial hell is possibly the most frustrating part of your programming journey, and it's not just you. Most beginners fall into the trap of passively watching tutorials, and as a result they make very limited progress, and so they give up. But what if I told you that tutorials are not the issue? Technology is always evolving, so you must constantly learn new concepts if you want to remain relevant as a coder. If used correctly, tutorials can massively boost your progress instead of slowing it down. But for that to happen, you need to watch them the right way. So in this video, I'll talk about how you can achieve that. Let's begin with briefly talking about why most beginners fall into tutorial hell. The first thing that I want you to understand is that learning is a process, and it consists of two main phases. The first part is actually getting the knowledge. This is where tutorials, courses and guides come handy. And the second one is applying that knowledge in some sort of project. And this is where real understanding happens. Think of it this way. When you're watching a tutorial, you're essentially loading information into your brain's short-term memory, kind of how a computer uses RAM. But if you want to keep that information long-term, you need to actually use it. That's like saving it into your brain's hard drive. Both parts are essential for learning. But obviously, the first one is much easier than the second one. Not that the latter is super hard or anything, it just requires more effort. For this reason, beginners usually only do the first part, thinking that they are making progress. But the thing is that you're not learning by just passively watching. You get some knowledge, sure, but in order for it to stick, you must also do the second part of the learning process, which is to apply that knowledge in some sort of project. So here's how I learn new stuff and how I use tutorials to do so. As I said in the previous part, the first phase of the learning process is actually getting the knowledge. I usually watch a course, but I have my editor opened. So I follow along and I briefly implement what I'm seeing in the course. If you have two screens, this can be really easy, having the tutorial in one screen and your editor in the other. However, it's completely fine if you have one screen. You can alter between the two windows or split the screen in two. Just don't overthink it, okay? Just open your editor while you're watching the tutorial and briefly implement what you are seeing. However, this is not enough. This was just the getting the knowledge phase. What I do next is further implement this knowledge in some sort of project. I either start a new project altogether or update an old one. There's something that I often say in my videos, and that's start building using the knowledge that you already have. This means that you don't have to know every feature of Python in order to build a program with it, obviously. Instead, just start building using what you already know, and you'll figure out anything else that you need along the way. Of course, you're going to get stuck, but that's not an issue. It's literally a part of programming. When I get stuck, I try to solve the bug by myself. And if that doesn't work, I seek assistance. I search it up in Google or in a website like Stack Overflow. But what I usually do is ask ChatGPT for help. Be careful here. Don't just copy and paste the solution. Make sure that you fully understand it. If you're using AI, ask it to help you get to the solution by yourself and not just give it to you. It is in this phase that real progress happens. You won't just solidify what you learn from the tutorial, but you'll also gain new knowledge and experience from writing code, fixing bugs, and getting stuck. So when do you pause the tutorial to apply the knowledge that you got? Here's what I currently do. Right now I'm watching a course about tkinter, which is a Python library used to create GUIs in case you didn't know. Every time I finish a section of this course, which is usually around 1 hour long, I go ahead and implement the main concept of this section by either updating an old project or starting a new one. In other words, watch a specific part of the tutorial that focuses on one concept, briefly applying what you are seeing. Again, that's the first phase of the learning process. Then stop watching and go ahead and apply this concept in some sort of project and apply it as many times as you need in order to get a good grasp of it. And that's the second phase of the learning process. What you must not do is learn about multiple concepts without implementing the last one. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're watching a course about a Python library. Each time you finish a part of the course that is about a specific concept, stop watching and go ahead for the next few days and make sure that you get a very good understanding of it through implementation in projects. From the very beginning, people have learned best by doing, by practicing, building, and making things with their own hands. That's how God designed us to grow, through practice. Here's an actionable step that you can take based on what we talked about. First, find out the programming concept that you want to learn about. Perhaps you're a beginner and you're not really familiar with classes and object-oriented programming. Start slowly watching tutorials, briefly implementing in your editor what you are seeing. Again, that's the first phase of the learning process. Then find out a project idea in which you could apply this concept. Start building classes for a game, for example. I don't know, create an animal class and then practice inheritance by creating a dog or a cat class. I don't know, just apply what you're learning. It's really up to you what you want to learn about. I just want you to remember that learning is a process and has two phases: getting new knowledge through tutorials or courses, and then applying this knowledge in some sort of project. Most people get stuck because they only do the first part of this process. Don't be that guy. Start building using what you already know. Anyway, that's all I have to say. If I helped you, consider pressing the subscribe or the like button. Remember to start building using the knowledge that you already have, and take care.